And I'm here with DJ Brennie. We're at a Dublin airport. DJ Brennie, of course, was a disc jockey long before there was many disc jockeys outside the radio in Ireland, back in the 60s and 1950s. Also a promoter back in as early as 1951.
Yep.
Tell me about that.
We used to run dances. There were a group of us who had been friends when we were in school, and we remained friends for some years after we left school. And we hit on the idea that we could make money by running dances at a time when ballroom dancing was all the rage. There weren't discos at all then, and there'd be big ballrooms that you could maybe get you could get 1,000 people in some of them.
Wow.
And anyhow, we decided we'd run the dances and raise money, and we'd hire the hall, pay the band, do the whole lot, and work out how much should we charge in order to make money, and we divide the profits between us. Now, we wondered what would we call ourselves, and I don't know, I didn't think it was. Somebody said, well, we're all bachelors, why don't we call ourselves the Bachelors Club?
And what age were you at the time?
We were all around 19 or so.
And then the bands that played, was it jazz?
No, there were big, you know, kind of Glenn Miller type bands, that type of music, that type of music. And at that time, like Ireland would have had dozens and dozens of famous bands playing, because that's what people did for recreation. There were no discos or nightclubs at all. So you went to these dances. They had them down the country and they had them everywhere in Dublin. There were lots in Dublin. But anyhow, we ran a lot of them in the Olympic Ballroom, which was Camden Street way, because it was big. And we ran them there, and we charged, I can remember charging what was about £0.50 at the time. And I don't know what that would be now, but it might be the same as maybe paying €10 or something in. But it was £0.50 at a time when the average earnings might have been about £8 or £9 a week. So I'll give you an idea, you know. And there were 8 half-crowns to £1, so an eighth of £1, right? But we ran them, and we ran them with great success, and we made money. We divided the money. Now, dividing it 5 ways meant, of course, that you know, you didn't get a huge amount, but you got a nice profit from it. And that continued. We ran them in Cleary's, had a ballroom up on the top floor over the now still a store, and we ran them in lots of different places. And we would have continued doing it, but there was a bit of a disagreement, as will always happen with a group. That one said, listen, I want to run one for charity. And the others were saying, well, feck charity, you know, let's run it for ourselves. And then anyhow we said, okay, we'll tell you what we'll do. We'll run one for charity. And then we couldn't agree which charity. We all had different. So the long and short of it is that that's what broke up the group. We couldn't agree.
So how many concerts did you do over how long?
We were doing them for about 3 or 4 years.
And how often did you do these?
We used to do one a month. And what we do is we'd get leaflets printed, and because each of us had full-time jobs, I was in insurance, George O'Reilly was in the Dunlop's tire place at the time, Tommy Johnson was in the Irish Press newspaper. We were all in jobs where there were lots of staff, so we'd get the staff where we worked to support it, and then well and good if we get others as well, or they would tell others, and that's how we packed it.
So these flyers, sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, the point was that Bill Murray, for instance, he worked in SO Oil. So we're all coming from different kind of you know, employments, and employments where there were hundreds of people working. So like I would have got from where I worked alone, I would have got at least, I'd say, 50 people or maybe or 100 to come to the dance. And then, as I said, and then there were others who'd come just because they heard. We'd run an ad in the paper, a cheap ad just saying Bachelors Club Dance, you know, at the Olympic Ballroom next Wednesday, whatever you see, and such a band. And on one occasion, George O'Reilly, who at that time had established this friendship with Bing Crosby, he got on to Bing Crosby and said what we were doing, would be any chance he would send a couple of signed autographed records that we could give out as spot prizes at the dance. Now, in case people don't know what a spot prize is, it was that there was a kind of a free prize just because you were at the dance and had paid into the dance. They'd give out some spot prizes. And anyhow, but to make a long story short, that was a great success. Then another idea came to us that Pepsi-Cola were announcing they were going to launch in Ireland for the first time ever. So we got on to Pepsi-Cola.
And at that stage, Coke was in existence?
In that stage, Coca-Cola had been here before them, right? But Pepsi was new, and it hadn't been in Ireland. So we got in touch with Pepsi-Cola, and we asked them would they like to, promote their new drink, and would they give us a supply for the dance. So they gave us about 1,000 bottles, or whatever, knowing that the hall held it, you see. And I'll never forget, there were some who didn't like it, and some who did.
Because it was a new taste.
When the dance was over, there were half, finished bottles and all that, all over the dance hall. They were under seats, they were on seats, they were on counters, they were everywhere. But the general impression was that they weren't mad for the free Pepsi-Cola. Maybe if they'd had to pay for it, they might have appreciated it more. But so even to this day, Pepsi is not terribly popular here.
So with these dances, what kind of publicity did you get at the time?
We used to get our pictures in the paper, and you will find, among my bits of papers and things like that, you'll find a picture from the newspaper of the Bachelors Club and a picture of us. Now, unfortunately, there were a couple of hangers-on that pushed into the bloody photograph. And
as always, yes.
And they shouldn't be in it. But you'll remember the names of the guys. You remember George O'Reilly, Tommy Johnston, Paul O'Driscoll, Bill Murray and myself. We were the guys. The rest were hangers-on.
And was there any other group like you in Dublin at the time doing parties like this?
Yes, there was some crowd used to run dances called the Engineers Club. And then there was another one used to run things, they used to call them the Nurses. And they used to try and encourage nurses from all the hospitals in Dublin to support it. And so but I honestly think we may have started the idea.
When you look back, can you remember the names of any of the bands that performed?
I'm trying to think now. Johnny Devlin was one, and Johnny Devlin was one, and let me see now. I wish I could think of the names. It's so long ago now, I can't think now. Sorry, I can't think.
That's
more,
okay.
But there were different bands, and but that was even before what later became the show band scene, where they didn't sit all the time on the stage. The show bands, the show bands would stand, and they'd all, like, if they weren't even great singers, they'd all do something.
Right.
They'd sing a song or whatever, and play, and that was the show band age. And the show band age kind of came more in the 60s. You see, and it's not that we couldn't have, we could have still run dances with them, but we had this kind of a disagreement that broke up.
And the music that they played were all covers of American big bands?
Oh yeah, all that kind of stuff, yeah. Glenn Miller type music and all that,
Okay.
And,
well listen, Brennie, DJ Brennie from the Bachelors Club, thank you so much.
Not at all.